Hello and Happy New Year to you from all of us as we start 2017. We at The Debate thank you for weighing in with differing perspectives. On that note, as our fast-moving world seems to somehow spin faster with each change in the calendar year, we can all be a little bit overwhelmed at times. But for some, the solution is to make it black or white, us versus them, no debate, no neutral turf, where we can exchange and listen. Which brings us to the topic of today's show. If you've ever been to Istanbul, you've experienced a true cosmopolitan crossroads. Not only does the city straddle Europe and Asia, it's the place where the secular and the devout rub elbows, where past meets the present. We'll be delving into the who, what, and why of the New Year's Eve shooting at the upscale Raina nightclub. 39 dead, 2/3 of them foreigners. We'll ask how President Erdogan is doing now that he's directly fighting ISIS on Syrian soil. And we'll also ask, is this about Turkey, or is it about shutting down places that are common spaces where people from different worlds can come, dance, and raise a glass to a new year? Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at Turkey's Terror Quagmire. With us from Istanbul, Yunus Paksoy, chief reporter for Daily Sabah. Welcome back to the show.
Welcome. Yeah, hi.
From Washington, Ilhan Tanir, former Washington correspondent for Cumhuriyet daily newspaper. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me on.
From Boston, Max Abrams, who teaches political science at Northeastern University, also a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And from the northern Lebanese city of Tripoli, Jana Jabour, research fellow at the French Political Science Institute Sciences Po and lecturer at Lebanon's St. Joseph University.
Thank you, François.
The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, hashtag F24debate. Let's start with the latest. Islamic State militants claiming responsibility for the New Year's attack at the Raina nightclub. 8 people being questioned. The man thought to be the lone gunman still at large. Clément Bonneau has more.
A city in mourning as residents of Istanbul bury the victims of the New Year's Eve attack on a nightclub. Many of those who survived are still in hospital. They recount the horror they felt when a gunman opened fire on the crowd.
He fired one shot on its own, so I thought, it was some angry or drunk man who shot from his gun. But a few seconds later, we heard a machine gun. We were already lying on the floor from the first shot. When I was shot, I had to lie down. I acted dead, so he didn't continue to shoot me.
The Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Turkish police have detained 8 people in connection with the investigation, but are still hunting for the gunman who managed to flee amid the chaos. Turkish media report he could be from a Central Asian nation, a claim which is now being verified by Uzbek and Kyrgyz authorities. It's also believed the attacker may have links to the terrorist cell responsible for the attack on Istanbul's Ataturk airport in June, which killed 45 people. Meanwhile, the owner of the Raina nightclub has responded to criticism that he failed to prevent the attack. He denied earlier claims that he'd been informed of a specific threat to his nightclub.
There was a general threat against Turkey, but there was no direct threat to us. How did he manage to carry out this attack in spite of all the intelligence and the security measures that were in place? I don't know.
A complete list of those killed has yet to emerge. A security guard who was outside the club was among the first to die. Other victims include Turkish nationals as well as tourists from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan and Morocco.
Yunus Paksoy, let me begin with you and ask you, how do you explain this attack? Why was Istanbul targeted?
Actually, Istanbul was targeted before this attack as well. And it's not only Istanbul, it's Istanbul, Ankara, our capital, and other provinces. So we have to say that Turkey is under heavy attack from Daesh, or the so-called Islamic State. When we asked the question, why is Turkey being targeted by Daesh, and Daesh said that President Erdogan is an evil person and he has to be killed. And Turkey has to be targeted. Turkish police, Turkish army, and Turkish prosecutors and judges should be attacked as well. So we asked the question why? Because Turkey fights Daesh and this Islamic State on the ground. Turkey is the only country that fights Daesh on the ground. And we know that if there's anyone who doesn't know about Turkey's cross-border operation in Syria, Turkey launched an operation, cross-border operation in Syria on August 24th. And for these past couple of months, Turkey has killed nearly 2,000 Daesh terrorists. So, you know, when you have a country like Turkey that fights you on the ground, that liberates city after city in Syria, you know, taking it from the hands of Daesh terrorists, you have to attack this country. And we have to be honest at this moment and say that Turkey has been left alone by other world powers in its fight in Syria. You know, U.S.-led coalition has not been lending support to Turkey, and you know the U.S. was silent. They decided to side with the PKK's Syrian offshoot PYD, and they're not backing Turkey's Operation Euphrates Shield. And the EU, we know the EU cannot make any decision on foreign policies. You know, they don't have that ability, I guess. And Turkey has been left alone, and Turkey is paying the price for it.
Hang on, Yunus, you're singling out the U.S. and Europe as you're saying since that August incursion that started in northern Syria by Turkish forces. Why aren't you mentioning Russia as well? Because after all, they're the ones who are present in Syria on the ground.
Yeah, if you agree that Russia is fighting Daesh on the ground, then so be it. They've been, you know, bombarding civilians. They've been bombarding only Aleppo or other opposition-held areas. You know, they've not been fighting Daesh. And, you know, there was an interesting twist on the ground. The Russian air forces have joined Turkish air forces in fighting Daesh in Elbap. You know, this week. You know, it was a first-time thing. And, you know, things are going really interesting in Syria. You know, they've joined Turkey's fight, but the U.S. is still looking on.
Max Abrams, what's your reading of what's going on in northern Syria and how it relates to what happened in Istanbul?
Well, I don't disagree with much of what your previous guest said. I would just point out that Islamic State is a very unusual group in the sense that its target selection is actually not very picky. Most terrorist groups are more particular about which targets are fair game. I honestly believe there isn't a country in the world that Islamic State doesn't want to hit right now, especially as the group, as an organization, is getting weaker and weaker in Iraq and Syria. This is a group that's strongly incentivized to strike out at any target. That said, Turkey does have a special relationship with Islamic State. Turkey, of course, is adjacent to the main conflict zone in Syria. Furthermore, Turkey increasingly, as your previous expert was saying, is on the opposite side of the fight against Islamic State. And so in the Islamic State credit claim for the Istanbul attack, what Islamic State says is that indeed Turkey is being targeted out of vengeance for the bloodshed that it is spilling against, you know, Muslims, presumably in Syria. And so this is a group that would attack anywhere anyway, but has a particular interest, especially now, in going after Turkey.
Ilan Tanir, before Turkey got actively involved in Syria with forces on the ground, there were already ISIS attacks directed on Turkish soil. We think most notably of the one at a peace rally before the elections in 2015. What's your reading as far as why this attack is happening now?
I think that when we look at the ISIS claim of responsibility that they issued today over Telegram, they basically point to Turkish intervention in Syria as a justification for the Istanbul Raina attack. So I think there is no question as Turkey increases its war against ISIS, especially around Al-Bab. ISIS looking for any opportunity to hit back Turkey. There is one point here. Obviously, there are questions about the Al-Bab operation. U.S. and coalition-led forces indeed are not giving support to Turkey around Al-Bab. Matter of fact, U.S. has been warning Turkey against the Al-Bab operation. They call it uncoordinated and not constructive. So the coalition members have been warning Turkey against that operation, and now there are questions whether Turkey did enough preparation for that operation. And another question is, President Erdogan says after taking Al-Bab, which nobody knows how long it's going to take and what kind of a bloodshed will be there. After that, President Erdogan says Turkey is going to go take over Manbij from the Syrian Democratic Forces. And then the Erdogan says we are going to go all the way to Raqqa. On the other way, the Prime Minister Binali Yildirim says that the last final point in Syria will be Al-Bab. The question about Al-Bab are many. How long Turkey is going to stay in Al-Bab if it takes over? And why really taking over from ISIS since then Turkey agreed with Moscow and Tehran over Syria? Eventually, Turkey is going to have to, according to this Moscow protocol declaration, going to withdraw. So the final sentence is, it looks like Turkey is trying to take over Al-Bab. First, we don't know what is the strategy. Second, eventually they are going to give Al-Bab back to Syria after giving all this bloodshed. And the question is why you are going all the way to the Al-Bab with no clear strategy and exit strategy.
Janet Jabbour, that is a question that's being asked. Al-Bab in and of itself, a city of some 60,000, it doesn't seem very strategically important. How do you understand what's going on the ground in Syria vis-a-vis, obviously, the blowback we've seen with that New Year's attack in Istanbul?
Also, before answering this question, let me just say that I fully agree with all the points that were mentioned by your guests earlier, but I would like to add two more important points. First of all, I think that in the mind of Daesh leaders, Turkey is the great evil, the big evil, because Turkey is a Muslim majority country that is yet a secular country, a tolerant country, an open country, and a cosmopolitan country. Daesh is targeting Istanbul today, just like it targeted the Bataclan in November 2015 in an attempt to actually target the Western lifestyle that we can find in Istanbul. And let's keep in mind that Raina is one of the most famous and most popular and trendiest clubs in Istanbul, and it is visited not only by Westerners and foreigners, but also by the westernized elite of Istanbul. And something quite interesting is that in November 2016, Daesh has released a press statement in which they said that from now on, Turkey is a direct target of the movement because Turkey is an apostate state. Apostate state meaning a Muslim state, but yet a secular state. So, I mean, Turkey is targeted because of its true identity and because it is an open and tolerant country. And the second point I would like to mention is that obviously this attack is an attack against the Turkish economy, which is heavily based on tourism. Today, the message is sent to Westerners, to foreigners, not to come to Turkey because their safety, their security would be directly targeted. Now, coming back to your question about Al-Bab. Al-Bab is very strategic, in fact, for Turkish policymakers, for Ankara, because if Turkey can control Al-Bab, Turkey can ensure a safety zone at the border between...
Oh dear, we seem to be losing a little bit the Skype connection there with Janet Jabbour in Tripoli, Lebanon. We'll try to get that reconnected as quick as we can.
Can I follow up on that?
Yunus Paksoy, let me ask you just about this because at the outset, you were mentioning how Turkey's the only one fighting ISIS in Syria. Of course, critics have long said that the Turkish government turned a blind eye to militants for a long time. Crossing over from Turkey into Syria and Iraq. No longer the case now, but for a long time it was. Is this a boomerang effect of being slow on the uptick when it comes to stopping these radical Sunni militants?
You know, there were always claims that Turkey, Ankara has had a great relationship with Daesh. And, these claims are baseless. Russia made these claims when our relations were bad. Some opposition figures made this claim. And, they're all baseless. They cannot base it on anything. And I would like to give you some figures. I would like to give you some numbers. Between 2011 and 2016, there were 7,000 suspects arrested by Turkish officials, Turkish security forces, and 16,000 people are on Turkey's no-entry list, and 4,000 people, foreign nationals, were deported from Turkey, on the grounds that they are linked with Daesh. So how can anyone say that Turkey supports these guys, sends weapons to these guys? And I'd like to, answer another question. İlhan Taner says that, Turkey has no plan in Elbap. I'd like to ask him whether he's in the army or not, whether he is getting any information, any intelligence from the military, because he's pretty sure that Turkey has no plan in Elbap. And another point, Turkey is criticized when it does not fight ISIS, fight Daesh on the ground. And when Turkey fights Daesh on the ground, people say it has no plan.
All right, let me get İlhan Taner, because we're almost out of time for the break. İlhan Taner, quick response.
Look, we don't have to go further. We just, when we look at the president and prime minister's talking points over Elbap, we see there is clear misunderstanding. We see these different remarks coming over Elbap. There is a main question out there. Taking Elbap, what is the exit strategy? How long Turkish troops will stay there? Whether Turkey will get out of Elbap and give it to Syria at the end, which is the current understanding. It looks
like the real play here is,
let me finish, please. Let me finish. Here is the situation. Turkey tries to get Elbap and take over Elbap before the Syrian Kurds taking over and connecting to cantons.
All right, so a race so that there isn't so there isn't that unbroken pattern there, a stretch of land alongside the border. We're going to have to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.